Hey, good day, everyone. Welcome to the Bert Salazar Retirement Show. My name is Bert Salazar, and I'm going to be here with you today, as I am every week, talking about tax planning, retirement planning, and many other areas of retirement, and how to pretty much create a successful retirement plan. Now, the today this is episode 182, so we've been doing this for quite some time now. So I appreciate all of you that follow me on the different social media platforms, and for giving me a few minutes of your time every single week in order to discuss things that are quite important when it comes to your family, your business, and your retirement life. Now, this is episode, as I said, 182. And the title for this episode is The Benefits of a Tactical Retirement Blueprint, Part 4. So we've done three parts of the Tactical Retirement Blueprint. And today I'm going to be concentrating on something that most Americans seldom pay attention to as they prepare for retirement. And that's wellness and healthcare. And it's one of probably the most important areas that you can work on. But the sad thing about that is that the vast majority of Americans kind of neglect it on a weekly basis. So I'm going to be giving you today the good and the good, the bad, and the ugly of what I see out in the marketplace. By the same token, I want to make certain that I can give you a disclaimer. I am not a physician. I am not a healthcare provider. So a lot of the information that I'm going to share with you is based on my personal experience, and also in the fact that I've been dealing with clients for 35 years. And I have clients at different stages of life. I have clients that are in their 30s and 40s, although I have less and less of those every single year. And I have more clients that are now 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I have a couple of clients in their early 90s. So I have been able to go through the entire spectrum of many of my clients over the last 3.5 decades or so. So I'm going to be sharing with you what I see. And I'm also going to share with you what it is that I do and try to maximize my retirement life and being as fit as I possibly can. Now, I'm not a personal trainer, although I've been working out since my teenage years. As a former U.S. Marine, obviously you have to stay in shape, so I was always in shape. Then I was a law enforcement officer for a lot of years, so I also needed to stay in shape. I did a lot of weightlifting, powerlifting back in the day. So I'm going to share with you some of the stuff that I do. But by the same token, I am not a physical fitness expert or anything along those lines. I'm just going to tell you what works for me, what has worked for me for decades, and then obviously you can take it with a grain of salt. Make sure that you consult with your physician, whatever I discuss or talk about. Make sure you do a medical exam prior to starting any type of exercise program. Consult with your personal physician, and then hopefully things are going to get better for you and when it comes to your retirement and your retirement life. So, first thing is I want to talk a little bit about wellness and retirement, which is a topic that, as I said, the vast majority of Americans don't pay attention to. And it's very, very important because remember, over the last three episodes that I have been covering the benefits of a tactical retirement blueprint, I talk about retirement life like climbing a mountain, like climbing Mount Everest. So when you get to the summit of retirement or the top of the mountain, let's say age 65, now you're going to start coming down on the other side of the mountain, which is what I call the distribution years of retirement. And if you recall from the episode that I did last week, I divide your retirement life into a 30-year period formulated by 3 decades. So if you retire at age 65, I'm going to take you through retirement planning and tax planning through age 95. And then those 3 decades in retirement, I call them the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. So the same thing that is apropos to talk about retirement distribution planning as I did in the last episode, and how to manage money and what are the products that are chosen or the foundational products under the traditional tactical retirement blueprint that my firm and I conduct for our clients. Also, healthcare and wellness play a major, major role in retirement. So it's important, and I'm going to walk you through that. Now, as you start to come down the mountain of retirement for that, let's say that 30-year period, if you happen to be lucky enough and healthy enough to be able to live into your mid 90s, obviously there are issues and concerns that you need to pay attention to. So I jotted them down because I think it's important that we stay with it. Now, in your go-go years, so for instance, I'm 66 years of age. I'm in the early stages of the go-go years. Now, I'm going to try to stay as in good a shape as I possibly can in my go-go years, because as you start to get, or as I start to get in my slow-go years, I want to be as fit as I possibly can, because I'm going to tell you a lot of things that I see in my neighborhood, in the marketplace, when I go on vacations, and those are things that are not very pretty from a business standpoint, or even from a personal perspective. So, my go-go years are full of life. I work out quite heavily, so I'm going to share with you the type of workout program that I go through, because I want to make certain that as I get into the slow go years and the no go years, that I'm going to be as healthy as I possibly can. Now, no one can predict an outcome. No one can predict what the future is going to bring. You know, I may have a stroke, or I may have cancer, or I may fall down and break a hip. So those are things that are out of my control. Although I'm going to try to manage that risk as much as I possibly can from that perspective. Now, um, depending on your personal health condition, healthcare costs can be as high as $350,000 in retirement. You know, there are a lot of things that, whether you're eligible for Medicare or not, or whether you have any other type of health benefit, you know, there are a number of things that those benefits are not going to cover. So, for instance, long term care. That's why I always recommend my clients, because living too long is a good thing. But by the same token, living too long brings a lot of other issues into question that need to be addressed. So long term care is very, very expensive. Traditionally, Medicare will only cover approximately 120 days of long term care. So if you don't have any type of long term care program in place, chances are you're going to have to, you know, start spending your personal assets to meet your long-term care needs. And what that's going to do, that's going to accelerate the depreciation of those assets in retirement. So you're definitely going to run out of money before you run out of life. So that's important to understand how that works. Now, another question that I get asked all the time is, you know, how to reduce potential healthcare challenges in your retirement. So, what is it that I see often? I see, as I walk around, I see a lot of canes, I see a lot of walkers, and I see a lot of wheelchairs. Now, you may say, well, Bert, perhaps a lot of those people are already in the no go years, but that's not necessarily the truth. In fact, I see a lot of people walking around with canes, walkers, and wheelchairs, and they are in what I call the go-go years to slow-go years of life. Now, how did they get there? Obviously, there are many different reasons why people get there. But I would argue one of the main reasons is that people have failed to really take care of themselves and their bodies along the way. So, for instance, if you want to be healthy at the age of 65, when you're going to reach the summit of your retirement life and now you're going to retire altogether, and now you're starting your go-go years, if you want to be healthy at age 65, when should you start taking care of yourself? At age 64, at age 54, or at age 44? Now, every person is different, but I would argue that the sooner that you start taking care of yourself physically and mentally, the better off you're going to be when you get to your retirement years, which is important for all of us. Another thing that I see, other than canes, walkers, and wheelchairs, I see a lot of fat people, and I'm just going to say it the way it is. I see a lot of fat people just having a very difficult time just climbing a set of stairs. And again, these people may be in their early 60s or early 70s, and there's no reason for that. I also see a lot of smokers. And, smoking is a horrible, horrible thing to do, because smoking is kind of killing your lungs. And as you get older and older in retirement, smoking is going to come back to haunt you. Now, I know clients that stopped smoking 20 years ago, and now they suffer from lung issues in retirement because of the scars that smoking did to them for decades. So if you're a smoker, the first thing I recommend to you is to quit, because you can do anything. Now, I had a very good old friend of mine that passed away a few years ago, and I asked him one time. I said, Pete, because he was a heavy smoker. I said, how many times? Is it hard to stop smoking? And he said, no, Bert, it's very easy. I've done it 1,000 times. So he stopped 1,000 times and started 1,000 times. So if there's one thing that I can recommend to you, is take care of your diet. Don't be fat when you get to your retirement summit, and don't be a smoker when you get to retirement summit. And I'm going to give you some other feedback on that as well. I also see a lot of heart conditions, high blood pressure, diabetes, and many other ailments within my client base. Why? Because not that they tell me personally, but I see them at least 2 or 3 times a year. And when we have to apply for life insurance or long-term care insurance or disability benefits, obviously I get to see, with their permission, a lot of those ailments that I've been talking about. Diabetes is a killer. Diabetes is something that is very bad. As a matter of fact, one of the sad numbers that I've seen over the last couple of years is that there's a lot more diabetes now in kids than they were 30 years ago. What is it now? 2/3 of the US population is fat, and 2/3 of children under the age of 15 are also totally out of shape and fat. Now, I remember when I went in the Marine Corps, I had always been in fairly decent shape, but as you prepare to go to boot camp, back in the day, I started to do more and more of the things that were required of me in boot camp. So by the time I got there, I was in good shape. One of the major challenges that the U.S. military has today is that a lot of these kids that apply to volunteer for the military cannot pass a physical fitness test, just the bare minimum physical fitness test, in order to get into the military. So you can imagine what's happening to those of us that are now in the go-go years, low-go years, and no-go years of life, which is something that it's really sad to see from that perspective. Now, I see lots of 60-year-olds, and I have a number of those clients that actually look like 80-year-olds. And that's sad to see as well. Sad to see as well. Now, what do I personally do? And as I told you, I'm 66 years of age. I just turned 66 a couple of months ago. So I'm in the very early stages of my go-go years. Now I stay mentally active as always. I continue to do my business. Um, Obviously, I have my daughter in the business as well, but I continue to stay mentally active. I read a lot of books. I write books. I'm actually writing now my second book. I have written dozens of white papers on tax planning, economics, insurance planning, and so forth. And I will continue to do that because you have to have a healthy mind as well as a healthy body. So, what it is that I do to stay in shape. And again, I've been doing this for decades. Now, at this stage of my life, I don't need to build a lot of muscle. My goal now is to keep whatever it is that I have. So, I go to the gym 3 times a week. I work out in the gym 3 times a week. Now, I'm not the type of person that goes to the gym like I see often now all the time. I didn't see that in the old days because there were no cell phones. But you see people now in the gym, they do one set of exercises and then they're looking into their Facebook and Twitter account. I don't do any of that. When I go to the gym, I want to go in and I want to go out. I want to get in and I want to get out. So I usually do anywhere between 40 to 50 minutes of workout in the gym. So I go from one exercise to the other. Usually I work out the entire body every time I go to the gym. So when I go to the gym, I normally go Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. I work all body parts. I do chest, shoulders, triceps, biceps, back, and legs. So I do 6 body parts per workout. Now, in the old days, I used to split it. I don't do that anymore. And I try to do as heavy and as many reps as I possibly can. Once again, I don't lift as heavy as I did when I was in my 20s, 30s, and 40s that I do today. But I still do reps anywhere between 8 to 12 reps. And I try to be as heavy as possible because I want to maintain the muscle mass that I have. Because as you get older in life, muscle mass is going to be extremely important, especially for bone density and so forth. So, again, I'm not talking to you about retirement distribution rates or rates of returns on your investments or any of that we've talked about over the last 3 videos that I have done. But we are now talking about how to condition yourself, how to condition your body in order to have a very successful and happy retirement life along those lines. So I work out 3 times a week. And by the way, lifting weights for women is extremely important because women, bone density is very critical for them as well. So you have to start. Actually, if you were to ask me, would you rather do weightlifting or aerobics? I would pick weightlifting every single day. Now, you can also do aerobic work as you do your weightlifting exercise just by accelerating when you go from one exercise to the other, or when you go from one set to another. So if you're used to doing sets and then resting for 2 to 3 minutes, well, now you can start doing the same set, but only rest 1 minute or 30 seconds, depending on how you feel. So you're doing aerobic work as well as you're doing weightlifting, which is very, very critical as well from that perspective. Now, the 3 days, because I take a day off, Sundays is my day off. So the 3 days that I don't go to the gym, which would be Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I also work out, but I do something totally different. So, for instance, those days I walk, and I do this even during the days that I work out. I try to put in anywhere between 10 to 12,000 steps per day. I'm averaging. I have the app that I carry with me, and I'm averaging about 9,500 to 10,000 steps. So shoot for a goal of 10,000 steps. Now, if you're not walking and you want to start doing it, don't go from 0 to 10,000. Start doing a couple of thousand steps and then keep adding and keep adding until you get to 10,000. There are days that I just go for a long, long walk. And that may, and I do that with my wife. So that may take me to 15,000, sometimes even 20,000 steps. And then the next day I'm beat up, but I just keep doing that. So I do 10,000 steps. And the other thing that I do on those 3 days that I'm not at the gym, I do a minimum of 100 push ups. So if you've never done push ups, well, start with one and start doing knee push ups. And then eventually you can get to do actual push ups. If you do 10 sets of 10, I'm okay with that. If you do 5 sets of 20, or if you do 4 sets of 25, it's up to you. Every once in a while, try to do a max set. I think I did one about 2 weeks ago, and I did a total max of 64 push-ups at one time. Now, I used to do north of 100 easily. Once again, I'm 66 years of age, but I try to do a minimum of 100 push-ups every other day, pretty much at home. I also have bands that I bought from Amazon, and I use those as well. Bands are very, very good for you. If you don't have time to go to the gym, make sure you get a set of bands. There are different weights on the band. So Amazon can give you all kinds of different programs. And then when you go to YouTube, there are many different programs that you can download that will show you how to use bands. And I also do, in the days that I do my push-ups, I do 200 air squats. Pretty much it's a squat without weights, and I do them nice and slow. I do sets of 25 at a time, and then I do those 200. So between going through the gym 3 times a week, in which I do my entire body each one of those days, then the in-between days, I'm doing at least 100 push-ups, and then I'm doing at least 200 air squats. If you start to do that, now don't do it all at once. Perhaps you may want to start going to the gym 2 to 3 times a week. And once you get comfortable with that, you can add a little bit more. You can add more sets. I usually do about 4 sets per body part. So that gives me 6 body parts. So that would be 24 sets that I do for the entire day that I'm at the gym. And again, I do that between 40 and 50 minutes. So I'm in and out. So I go fairly quickly in my 24 sets. And then once you feel comfortable with that, then every other day, instead of having just a rest day, start incorporating some push-ups and air squats along the way. Some days I don't do anything because I want to give my body a little bit of rest. And then Monday I go back to the basics of doing what I do every day. So once again, I don't know your body physique. I have no idea how good of a shape you are, or how bad of a shape you are, or how heavy you are. But those are things that are important. At least I'm giving you some guidelines of what I do for myself. And at the age of 66, I go to the gym, I go places, and people go, "Gee, Bert, you don't look 66." So, that's a compliment for me along those lines, and I kind of like that from a personal perspective as well. So, let's talk a little bit about healthcare providers and things that I also do on an annual basis. So, I get blood and urine tests done every 6 months. And then I have a semi-annual checkup, and I do that twice a year as well. It's important because I want to see where I'm at as far as all the different areas that you need to watch for. Your PSA levels, I keep an eye on that. I had a little bit of an enlarged prostate. Most men, as they get older, they have enlarged prostate. I keep an eye on that, and so forth. The other thing that I also do is I monitor my testosterone level twice a year. It's important because testosterone helps you maintain your muscle mass. So as you get older, men have a tendency to start losing their testosterone levels. And if your level of testosterone is very, very low, then you're going to get tired. You're going to start putting on fat. You're not going to have a good time at the gym when you go to the gym. So if you happen to suffer from that, then obviously you can see doctors that can help you with the management of your testosterone levels to a healthy and adequate level along those lines. So that's something that I do twice a year. I have been doing fine on that, so I haven't had to take any type of additional medication for that. But that is something that I monitor twice a year from my own edification. Now, um, muscle mass and mobility are critical when it comes to retirement. The other thing that you may want to do once you start doing air squats, and even doing air squats, when you start doing them or you're increasing the number of sets, you're going to realize that your legs are going to be in pain because you haven't done these things in many, many years. Launches are also very, very good because it helps you disengage your hips, because once again, as we get older, we get stiff. And when your body is stiff, it can actually break down very quickly. So I try to stay as slim as I possibly can along those lines. And that's important not only for me, but also for all of you that are watching this video. Now, um, how about weight control? Now, I get asked often, Bert, what do you do to keep your weight in check and so forth? And by the way, all of us, at least in my case, I can always lose another 10 to 15 pounds or another 5 to 7 kilos, as many of my clients are from European countries and so forth. You can always lose a little bit more, but what I pay attention to is, although I do pay attention to what I eat, I pay most attention as to when I eat. So about a year ago, I started to consider and doing some research on intermediate fasting. As a matter of fact, if you go to YouTube, you can download books on the benefits of intermediate fasting, which, by the way, most humans have been doing for generations and millions of years, anyways. Is part of your DNA. And when you're asleep, basically you're doing fasting. So intermediate fasting is nothing more, nothing less than determining what period of the day you're going to eat and what period of the day you're going to be fasting. And we call that the eating window and the fasting window. And there are tremendous benefits. Now, again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physician, I'm not a dietitian, but there are tremendous benefits when it comes to intermediate fasting. You see, the only time that you can start burning fat is when your insulin levels are very, very low. And the only way that your insulin levels get very, very low is when you're fasting for a long period, meaning you're not eating anything. Now you can drink water. You can do a pure fast, which would be only water. You can also drink black coffee. You can drink tea. You cannot put any type of sugar additives or cream on your coffee. So I drink black coffee. I drink green tea, once or twice a day during my fasting period, and it's very, very good for you. But the only time that your body starts burning its own fat is when your insulin levels are low. So if you're someone that has breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, and then snack before you go to bed, your insulin levels are always going to be high, and you're never going to lose any type of body fat. That's why I see a lot of fat people walking around anywhere in town. So how do you prevent that? How do you do that? Well, once again, go to YouTube. There's a Dr. Fung on YouTube, Fung, which he's awesome. He's got a number of videos, and he's written books on intermediate fasting, but there are many other authors and doctors that actually talk through the benefits of intermediate fasting along those lines. Um, TED Talks are excellent, and there have several that have been done, which are excellent by doctors that talk about the benefits of intermediate fasting. And the longer the fasting, the better your body is for your body to start to repair and get rid of dead cells in your body. So, for longevity planning basis, intermediate fasting is awesome. In addition to the fact that you're going to start burning body fat. Now, let me caution you this because when I started doing back in February of this year, 2022, I noticed that I would weigh myself once a week and I was not losing weight. And it took about 30 days after I started fasting to start losing weight. And the reason for that is that, at least in American society, we eat a lot of carbohydrates. So your body's used to burning carbs. Your body's not used to burning fat because your body wants to store fat, for days when there is no food, like we used to millions of years ago. Well, that's not the case, or hundreds of thousands of years ago. That's not the case anymore. You can walk down the street and have food available to you at any point in time. So your body has forgotten how to burn fat because it has to make that paradigm shift chemically in order to be able to do that. So it took me about 30 days to start to notice that I was starting to lose 1 to 2 pounds every single week, and I was not hungry. Now, I started the 12-12 program, which means 12 hours a day fasting and 12 hours a day eating. So basically, what I did is I just skipped breakfast. They say that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Well, those were marketing companies that have been marketing to us for decades, especially the cereal industry has been doing that damage to us for many, many years. So don't believe that at all. So I started to skip breakfast. And then I started to push dinner sooner and sooner in the evening. And then I started to push my fasting later and later in the day. So I went from 12-12, I went to 14 and 10, 14 hours fasting, 10 hours eating window, which for me now is, and for my wife is very, very long. And then we got to the 16-8, which is the one that most people use, 16 hours of fasting, 8-hour eating window. So if you stop eating at 8 p.m., so that at 8 a.m., that would be 12 hours. So by noontime, you can start eating again. So that would be 16 hours of fasting. And by the way, at noon, you can have breakfast if you want to. It's entirely up to you. But now the way I do it with my wife, she's doing 18-6. So she goes 18 hours. So if we stop dinner at 8 p.m., she'll go on to 2 p.m. the next day and have her first meal. I do 24. I do 20 hours of fasting and 4 hours of my eating window between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. Now, I don't recommend you go all the way to that level because you have to go in stages. But if you want to maximize weight loss and chemical changes in your body, the 20-hour, the 16 to 20 hours when you really start maximizing. Now, there are crazy people that do, 36-hour, 24, 36, 72-hour fasting. Some others do 5 days. You don't have to go that far. If you want to do that once a quarter, whatever you want to do, a 36-hour fast, that's okay. But I like the idea of 18 to 20. So on a 7-day week, I may do 4 days of 18 and I do 3 days of 20. Now, I eat what I want, but I try to not eat a lot of carbs as I'm closing my window, my eating window, because again, the lower your carb in your system, your body's going to eat through that carb very quickly, and then you're going to start going into your fat storage for burning and for calorie consumption and maintaining your levels of insulin as low as possible. That's basically what I do. If you're heavy, make sure you go see your physician. Have have a conversation with him or her about intermediate fasting and the benefits of it. If you're pregnant, please don't do it. That's a different ball game. Or if you have diabetes, don't do it because that's going to be really bad for you as well. So those are things that are important from that perspective for you and your family. So it's something that you gotta pay attention to. Once again, healthness is very, very important. So when it comes to walking, exercising, dieting, keeping an eye on yourself and your weight and how you look and how you feel is paramount if you want to live a long life in retirement and if you want to be as healthy as possible. So hope you enjoyed this video. For those of you that may want to reach out to me, please feel free to do so. You can send me an email at bertsalazar.com, B-E-R-T at BERTSALAZAR.com. And if you want to reach out to me, you can call me at area code 305-304-4770. And always remember that my goal for you and your family is to kind of help you change the way that you see things. Because when you change the way that you see things, the things that you see change. So once again, thank you for giving me a little bit of your time today, and I'll see you again next week. Take care. Bye-bye.